We'll get to those at the end of the stream, those who are watching. So, Ariel Helwani, perhaps a top tier interviewer in the sports, not just wrestling, but sports period, MMA and all that kind of stuff. He has been doing this for, I think, over a decade or so. He's been here for a while, and he's built quite a reputation for himself. And as you know, when he gets the opportunity to get interviews with people like Tony Khan, he wants to ask the big questions. And that's what he did a week ago, some time ago, when he had Tony Khan on his podcast. In this podcast, he asked Tony about Cody Rhodes. He asked Tony about MJF. He asked Tony about CM Punk, the Young Bucks, and Kenny Omega, the media scrum fallout. Now, as you guys know, that was kind of a fruitless effort. He should have never even thought about asking him about CM Punk and the Elite, because he can't talk about it. By he, I mean Tony legally can't talk about it because there's an investigation. So I don't know what he thought was going to happen. But he did ask him about MJF, and he did ask him about Cody. Tony Khan said, can't talk about that. For the most part, Tony just basically plugged the show, and he did mention that CM Punk had an office job. What? Yeah, CM Punk wore a suit. He had power like the Young Bucks and Omega. Not an EVP, but he had an office job. What that position was, I have no idea. That actually makes everything worse, because CM Punk, Kenny Omega, the Young Bucks were in backstage positions, and they still did what they did. Oh, that's not good. But I don't know what Mr. Ariel Helwani was expecting, but what he got from Tony wasn't what he wanted. He didn't get what he wanted. And so, as a result, Ariel decided to vent his frustrations. He decided to go on Twitter and talk about why he didn't like what happened. So we're going to react to what he had to say about the Tony interview. And he had a lot to say. Once we hear what he says, you will get my reaction, and then I will leave the floor to you to give me your reaction. Here we go. Here's what he had to say about the Tony Khan interview.
Now, the Tony Khan interview. Did this interview with Tony Khan last Tuesday. It aired Wednesday night. It was for the YouTube channel. You could check it out. Look, whatever I'm going to say here is going to piss off the AEW supermarks. But I'll just say this. One of the most frustrating and, to a degree, not so fun interviews of my career. Because, as you may have seen, he didn't want to answer anything. Now, look, like, you're going to come on and promote X, Y, and Z. Great. And I'll play that dance with you. And I did at the beginning. But you got to give us something. To not even tell me, like, how you were feeling. I'm not asking for specifics on, all right, fine, I asked, is Punk going to wrestle for you? Is he coming back? You don't want to get into it? Fine. But just tell me how you were feeling. Give me something. Now, the Tony Khan interview.
So,
this interview
that's just a snippet. We'll react to that really quickly because there is more. Once again, why would you even go there? Why would you even go to the CM Punk, Omega, Young Bucks scrum, expecting him to talk about it? And yeah, he worded it as, well, he didn't have to give me specifics. He could tell us how he felt. What is that going to do? What do you want him to say? Oh, it felt amazing? Because if he would have said, well, I was disappointed by it, it would have been like, well, no shit, Sherlock. Like, I know what Ariel was looking for, but he should have known better. He should have known that Tony cannot talk about CM Punk or anything revolving around that scrum, the fallout of the scrum. However, I will say, if I was Tony Khan and I was being called in to do an interview with Ariel, I, knowing who Ariel is, would have said no. Can't do this interview. Because I know what you want, and I'm not going to waste your time. I can't talk about Punk. I won't talk about Cody. I won't talk about MJF. I won't talk about any of the backstage drama. I'm not going to come on your show to bury my talent roster. I'm not going to come on the show to tell you anything about how I run my show. And no, I'm not going to let you bury me either. Because that's something else I know Ariel probably wanted. He wanted Tony to go on the show and talk about, yeah, you know what, Ariel? I'm terrible at my job. Like, why would he do that? So I don't know what Ariel was looking for, but I'm sorry he didn't get what he wanted. But at the same time, it's not like Tony Khan gave you nothing. First off, having Tony Khan on your show is a big deal. That alone is a big deal. So you should already be grateful he came on the goddamn show, number one. Number two, he still came on and talked about some things. He told you that CM Punk had an office job, which is actually pretty good. Didn't know that. I didn't see the whole interview, by the way, but they did talk about the show. They did promote some things. They did talk about certain talent. So it's not like he gave you nothing. He just didn't give you what you wanted. And that's just how it is. It'd be like that sometimes. We're not done yet, though. Let's go to another clip from Ariel. So he continues his rant with the following.
AEW in Toronto tonight. It's going to be great. My one regret was not asking about the 9,000 titles. Way too many titles in AEW. But here's the thing.
Way too many titles in WWE. Sorry. Oh, I'm going to get heat for that one. Gonna get heat for that one. Yes, I do agree that AEW is oversaturated with championships because they have the ROH belts and the AEW belts. I agree, 1,000%. It also doesn't help that the Ring of Honor Championship is getting more TV time than the AEW title. We'll talk more about it when we get to it. We'll get to it in just a second. But let's not pretend WWE doesn't have too many belts. I don't know why we have two women's champions, especially knowing that we have a set of women's tag team belts that isn't being defended. But, okay, sorry, continuing.
Titles in AEW. But here's the thing. If you are saying right now with a straight face that the AEW product is better than the WWE product, you're just a liar. You're just an absolute liar. There's no if, ands, or buts. The WWE product is infinitely better, infinitely more interesting, and there's a freaking brawl happening backstage each and every week, it seems. Meanwhile, it's all kumbaya on the Stamford side of things. Like,
how do you know that, Ariel? See, I'm interrupting him now because now he's in his feelings, and I can't really villainize him for feeling this way. Homeboy's hurt. He's hurt, and he's disappointed, and he's angry because Tony didn't give him what he wanted. So, of course, he's going off on AEW, saying that WWE is infinitely better, and then framing it as a fact, which that's one of those things where I'm so glad, even in my most biased senses, my most biased times when I was like anti-WWE, and I was one of the most anti-WWE supporters for the longest time. If it wasn't AEW, it was NXT. If it wasn't NXT, it was Lucha Underground. And if it wasn't Lucha Underground, it was New Japan Pro Wrestling. It was never WWE. I was anti-WWE for the longest time, and I'll be the first one to tell you. But even in my most biased runs, I've never framed my opinions as facts. It's always been, this is how I feel. And I can proudly say that. Proudly say that. So I don't know why Ariel's doing this whole, well, you can't objectively say AEW is better than WWE. Well, no, but you can't objectively say WWE is better either. It's all subjective. Oh, I think AEW is better than WWE. That doesn't make me a liar. That just makes me a fan of AEW. And I prefer AEW over WWE. Is WWE interesting? Absolutely. Are they the highest they've been in years? Absolutely. But that doesn't mean that I have to like it more than AEW. It's all subjective opinion. And I'm actually kind of disappointed that he's allowed his interview with Tony to affect his enjoyment of the shows. And I see people on Twitter giving him shit. Actually, let me finish the interview and we'll get more into that aspect. But, nah, man. The hell? Nah, you can't objectively say WWE is better than AEW. You just can't. Back this up a little bit.
On the Stanford side of things, like, if you're going to be a super fan, but also tell it like it is. 6 months ago wasn't the case. A year ago when Punk came back wasn't the case. When Bryan signed, when Moxley came, all that stuff wasn't the case. But right this second, if you're going to sit here and say that it's a better product, you're an absolute liar.
No, or I could just be an AEW fan. And also, getting back to the other point I was making about him claiming that there are no backstage issues with WWE. How the fuck do you know that? Maybe WWE is just better at keeping it under wraps. AEW's issue is that they put all their drama out on social media. You just know about it because AEW is terrible at hiding their issues. Because a lot of their issues happen on social media. And it happens to be with the same people, by the way. Just want to point that out there. But to just assume that WWE just isn't dealing with these issues is bullshit. It's bullshit. Especially knowing that he talks about a year ago, just 6 months ago, Becky Lynch and Charlotte Flair. Hello? Remember that? It happens in WWE too. Just so we're clear, it happens everywhere. WWE is just better at keeping it under wraps. And with Triple H in charge right now, of course there's people who are happy. There's people just dancing in daisies right now. Because Triple H is taking over. But this is the honeymoon period. How do we know a year from now we won't start seeing issues again? Just something to think about. Just something to think about. But, yeah, Homeboy got his little feelings hurt because Tony Khan didn't give him what he wants. As you can imagine, people roasted him. People say, oh my God, Ariel Helwani, he's just mad that Tony couldn't talk legally about Punk. But what people were roasting him mostly about was the fact that, I think a couple of months ago, he did an interview with Triple H. And not once did Ariel bring up Vince McMahon. You want to get the hot button stuff with AEW, but then when it comes to WWE, and the hottest thing this year so far is still Vince McMahon retiring, nothing. He asked him nothing about that. Because, and I keep bringing this back to Tony Khan in respect, he respects Triple H and WWE more. He knew better not to ask that question. But with AEW, with AEW and Tony Khan, we're seeing this pattern of disrespect when it comes to Tony. Not just with the wrestlers, not just with the fans, but with people in the industry not showing him that same respect. Ariel is smart enough to know that Tony was never going to talk about any of those issues. Cody, MJF, CM Punk, Kenny, the Bucks. Even if he asked him about Eddie and Sammy or Sammy and Andrade, why would he talk about that? He should have known that was never going to happen. But he doesn't respect him. Quite frankly, I'm shocked Tony still went through with the interview. Well, anyways, Ariel got roasted, and he decided to respond to the freakazoids on Twitter. Here's what he had to say. He had to say the following. You AEW freakazoids are nuts. You're all mad that I said I didn't enjoy one interview, yet for the past year plus, every time I talk about wrestling, I have praised the product. Said WWE was stale, blah, blah, blah. Said it on Simmons Pod in July, my show 100 times. Look it up and chill out. Sheesh. And another you're going to notice this. Like, he keeps going. He keeps going for a while. I'm not going to read the whole thing, but I'm just going to read tidbits here. If me saying the interview wasn't enjoyable offends you because you liked it, thanks. I appreciate it. If you want to defend the non-answers, most of which had nothing to do with the legal stuff, but alas, fine. You sure about that? Because I can't really comment on that because I didn't listen to the whole interviews, but alright. Who cares? Not sure why you're so mad and comparing this to that. Sheesh. And another thing, you can, it keeps going. Except for the past year, that Sasha Banks BT review was a disaster and my least favorite ever. Still is. See, didn't want it to run. Why didn't anyone go crazy over that? Get a grip. Stop picking and choosing. And if you are, please also pick the nice stuff too. Okay, thanks. And another thing, you could just tell, like, he didn't want to shut up. He couldn't shut up. Oh, and I was asked about it on the show. I didn't just randomly start talking about it. And yeah, the product isn't as good right now. It was superior 6 months. I said that. It isn't now. It may be superior again in 6 months. This happens. My opinion. It's not that serious, bros. Best part, I predicted this very reaction. Ha, amazing. Okay, I'm done. Off to watch some GCW. Now that's real wrestling. Blowing a kiss. That's adorable. So, real quick, let me just say this. I think we need to be better at how we react to social media. To me, fine. Ariel was angry that Tony didn't give him the answers that he wanted. If I'm going to bring you on my show, I would at least expect you to give me something. And this is something that I had to learn myself as an interviewer, as a newbie in terms of the wrestling media. First off, I always ask the wrestlers, what questions are you not okay with? I always get that in. With Victoria, even, she had some questions she didn't want to be answered. Same thing with SoCal Val, and same thing with other incoming interviews that you have yet to see. They're not going to always want to talk about everything. You have to respect that. But I show them the questions beforehand, the topics beforehand, and they go, cool. I never just blindside them with a question that I know they're not going to like. And even if I don't necessarily talk to them beforehand, I can at least gauge what questions aren't okay. If I was to interview Stephanie McMahon, why the fuck would I talk about Vince McMahon for? You get me? Why would I talk about her dad? I saw something where a dude was harassing Linda McMahon about the Vince McMahon allegations. So, like, how'd you feel about your husband and the allegations? Like, what the fuck do you want her to say? Oh, he's a scumbag. It's her husband. I remember an interview with TMZ when they were stalking Sasha Banks and Naomi. Mercedes and Trinity. Are you going back to WWE? Are you going back to WWE? What? Why would you ask them that? Even something as simple as people asking The Rock if he's coming back to fight Roman Reigns. What do you want him to say? Like, you just need to be better at gauging the people you're talking to. I know he can't talk about, by he, I mean Tony Khan. I know Tony can't talk about CM Punk. Why go there? Omega and the Young Bucks. Why go there? MJF is a sore spot. Why go there? Cody Rhodes leaving, I'm pretty sure fucked him up. Why go there? Why would I want him to talk about Sammy, Eddie, Andrade? What is he going to say? Why would I want him to talk about Malachi Black? What do you want him to say? Why would you ask him those questions? And if you're going to ask him those questions, I agree with everyone else that said it, have the same balls to ask Triple H about Vince. But you know that you would never do that to Triple H. Why? Because you respect WWE. You respect Triple H. You respect Vince McMahon. You don't respect Tony Khan. Otherwise, you wouldn't have asked him. You wouldn't have even bothered to ask him that stuff. The flip side of that coin is, I don't think Tony should have done the interview, period. If I'm Tony Khan, I know I'm not going to say much. I know what he's going to ask me. So, all right, why bring me on? Why do the interview? I think Tony would have done him a favor if he would have just not done the interview. That's what I think. Ariel Helwani, I still think he's a great interviewer. I just feel like right now, everyone just wants to hate. They just want to hate on AEW now. It's the fun thing. It's the cool thing to hate on AEW. And I don't know, man. I'm at the point now where I don't think that's necessary. I think both products are still very good. Yes, there are some cracks in AEW's armor. WWE isn't perfect yet. It still won't be perfect when Triple H finally gets things back to normal, or gets things back to a level where we can enjoy WWE all the goddamn time now. There is no such thing as a perfect company. So I don't know why we're hating on AEW. I still love the product. I still love watching AEW. Clearly I still like talking about it because here I am. I don't know. I just feel like, for me personally, that it was completely unnecessary for Ariel to even go there with Tony. That's just me. Give me your thoughts down below about that interview, how you guys feel about it. I'm very curious to know how you guys will respond to that. Again, I just feel like it was just not necessary.